Welcome back, y'all, and happy Friday. This is the Blue Chip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. Today, I want to talk about the three players from Tennessee that got invites to All-Star games. Now, none of the players will be playing in the All-Star games, but all of them got a chance to compete in practices and things like that. So we'll talk about their profile. We'll talk about where their draft stock sits at currently, and we'll also talk about, did they help themselves out? Is it stock up? Is it stock down? Or is it stock stagnant? So please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, for those of y'all that haven't already seen it, I did put out the clips for all of these players individually so that y'all can check that out. Hopefully, some of y'all have already seen it and you can just chime in and let me know, do you think that it's stock up, stock down, or stock stagnant? Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, y'all, we're going to start this off with Dante Thornton, who did compete in the East-West Shrine Bowl practices. Again, did not play in the game last night because he had a hammy. Hopefully, he's going to be able to get that healed up. Hopefully, it wasn't too serious because for him being a big guy that can move, as y'all looking at his profile, I'm sure that y'all are already kind of peeping that. But a big guy that can move is going to be very important, over the course of all the combine stuff that he can show and prove how fast he actually is. But he's listed at 6'5", 214 pounds, clocked as fast as 23 miles per hour over the course of his college career. That's blazing. That's like lower 4.3s. And with that size, that's a very rare combination. If you come down and look at some of his other numbers from last season, he caught 29 of the 38 passes that were thrown to him. That's 76.3%. And he actually caught 93.5 of the catchable passes. He only had 2 drops. So those numbers look great. Some of y'all could think back to some of the other wide receivers that we've been talking about over the past month or so. Those numbers look the best out of anybody that we've been taking a look at. So let's come on down. Let's keep on talking about it right here. 750 yards last season as a pass catcher, 25.9 yards per catch, which is insane. And he averaged 10.8 yards after the catch. So he is that deep threat that can take the top off. And he had 6 touchdowns, 13 explosives, which are just, plays of 15 plus yards. But again, he's that deep threat, and there are several things that we will kind of get into that I think that he's proven that he can do to be a complete wide receiver in the East-West Shrine Bowl practice. And now I want to take a look at Dante Thornton's draft stock at this point. This is from NFL Mock Draft Database. I like this site because they look at all the different experts' thoughts and they put it all into one. So we're seeing that they have him projected to go in the 7th round. And as we scroll on down here, we'll see where they're getting all this information from. So we're seeing some 6th round, maybe some like later 5th round stuff, and mostly 7th round. So that's about where Dante's at this point. All right, so let's jump into these clips from Dante Thornton's practice at the East-West Shrine Bowl. The first thing that jumps off the film to me is how sudden he is at the line of scrimmage. He does a great job of getting that inside release. His leverage always looks good. If it's an inside route, he's going to be able to get to the inside straight off of the line of scrimmage. Doesn't really matter if the cornerbacks are playing him up close to the line of scrimmage. Again, that quickness and that suddenness for a player that's this big is very, very rare to see. It's hard to get hands on him, and if you do get hands on him, he's so big and so strong, it probably won't disrupt his routes as much. And we're kind of seeing it as we're going through this. But he can also do a great job of kind of stemming you at the line of scrimmage on some fades and then stacking you at the top of the route and making it very easy on his quarterback. So he's going to be quarterback friendly. Doesn't matter if it's speed outs and things like that, which he does look very good running. I wouldn't say that he looks like one of the smaller scat back types of wide receivers, but he definitely looks a lot more sudden and fluid in all of his routes, for his size. I would say he looks a lot more fluid than most wide receivers his size. And these days, man, like you can't just be a Randy Moss that's about the same size, 6'4", 6'5", and can just fly. Now, I would definitely say that Randy Moss is faster than Dante Thornton, but that's the only reason he was able to pretty much run a bunch of vertical routes, and no one could stop it in the NFL. These days, everyone is so good. You've got to be able to run a full route tree. So the main thing that I love about what we're seeing here with Dante Thornton's film is he's showing that he can make the tough catches, inside routes, outside routes, short routes, intermediate. Everything looks really crisp, really clean. And I think that he has definitely increased his draft stock coming up. But what he's going to have to do is get himself healthy, get that hamstring right, because he definitely, I think, needs to run sub 4.4. If he can run 4.3, I think that no questions asked, he is a top 3 round draft pick at wide receiver. And if he, runs like, we'll say like a 4.35 and under at his size and everything else that he's put out on film, he might be a first 2 round sort of a player. He might be one of the biggest shocks in this draft, or maybe one of the players that slept on the most. Next, we have Brew McCoy, who did participate in some of the practices at the Senior Bowl, but he left early. I'm not quite sure why. I've seen in some places that maybe it was just to get ready for the NFL Combine. That makes sense to me. You don't want to get hurt in, any of these all-star games. The Combine might mean more, especially if you're a higher caliber player, which Brew is, and really nobody that we're going to be talking about today are high enough caliber players that you can totally skip any of these all-star games, but he got to go out there and practice some, talk to coaches and GMs and scouts and all that. That was probably the main reason that he went out there. There's no real need to continue to push that issue and play in the game, which he will not be doing tomorrow. But looking at his profile, listed at 6'3", 230 pounds, clocked as fast as 21.6 miles per hour. I would say that's, higher, or I'm sorry, lower 4.5s to higher 4.4s. Really good speed for his size. I mean, 230 pounds. He's not going to be the guy that's going to wow you with his separation and all that, but he's going to be great at making those tough catches. Think of maybe like Juwan Jennings. Okay, they're both worth at number 15. Both very similar players, and hopefully the scouts and coaches and all that will look at it and say, well, we're seeing what Jennings is doing. Maybe Brew can kind of replicate it. That should help out his draft stock some. But looking at the rest of his numbers, he caught 40 of the 68 passes that was thrown to him. That's good for 58.8%. He caught 88.9% of the catchable balls, which is really good. We, told you that you want to be up very close to 90. Really, you should be over 90. He only had 2 drops last season. 478 yards. That's good for about 12 yards per catch. 4.7 yards after the catch was his average. That is really good. That's the second best that we've looked at since we started looking at these numbers. So that should tell you a whole lot about how much of a dog he is. He had 2 touchdowns, 10 explosives, which again is 15 or more yards. So let's take a look at his current draft stock. And what we're seeing here, very similar to Dante Thornton, a 7th round grade for me is probably a little bit more accurate for Brew than it was for Dante. And if we scroll on down, you can see, well, what some of the other experts and other sites are saying about Brew. Now, interesting right here is that Draft Countdown has him as good as a number 62nd player. That would be a 2nd round draft pick. Can he work himself up to that? I think that would be tough. But if he has a really good, after the season showing over these next couple of months or so, I could see him potentially working closer to that. All right, y'all, now let's take a look at Brew's practice clips. The first thing that kind of jumps off the film to me is he's showing that quickness, that suddenness at the line of scrimmage. With him being a bigger guy, especially with his weight, you're not really expecting that. So it's a good job by him of showing that. He also shows some savviness at the top of his routes. He's not going to be a guy that's going to create a bunch of separation with just his speed. He's going to have to use his body, kind of box people out, almost like a tight end. And he is actually a guy that could probably play a little bit of tight end in the NFL. He's about the same size as a Brock Bowers, but he's definitely going to be faster than Brock Bowers is. And we saw how, how productive Brock Bowers' first season was in the NFL. Either way, I like what I'm seeing out of his routes. Again, it's not going to wow you from a separation standpoint or any of that, but he's very similar to, I would say, like a Juwan Jennings, who also wore number 15 at the University of Tennessee. We know it's just something about that number with our wide receivers that it seems like it just turns them into superheroes. It turns them into dogs. So Bruce shows a whole lot of that within his practice clips. I don't know if he helped or hurt himself just as far as his draft stock goes. It's probably pretty stagnant at this point. But again, if you look at some of the other players that have a similar skill set, you can see why he could be a really good player in the league. What he's going to have to do, and what I'm sure that he's already done, is really impress the scouts, coaches, and GMs with his interviews. I think first and foremost, have them want to look deeper into your film. If they want to look deeper into Brew's film, they're going to love what they see because he made several big-time tough catches in very critical situations, and gotta have it situation. That is big. I know that that's going to go a very, very long way. But the biggest thing for Brew is going to be, how does he test? His numbers are going to have to be really, really good. I would say at least a sub 4.5 40, which just means faster than a 4.5. So we're talking 4.4s and under. If he can get to that realm, if it's closer to a 4.3, I absolutely love his chances to get drafted. But right now, I would say he's probably leaning a little bit more towards being an undrafted free agent. Or, if he does get drafted properly later rounds, again, if he contests well, if he interviews well, if a team just falls in love with him, then maybe he goes a little bit higher. But I just don't see it with, all the other talent at wide receiver inside of this draft class. But I absolutely love Brew. I think that, he's a fan favorite for all of all fans. I'm hoping the best for him. I'm wishing that things go well for him. I know that they will. He's going to end up exactly where he needs to be. And, again, whether he gets drafted or not, he's going to be a long-time NFL vet. Just stay healthy. He's going to be very, very productive in the league. All right, y'all. Last but not least, we have Omar Norman Lott, who's listed at 6'3", 315 pounds. His max speed, 20 miles per hour. That is blazing fast. So 20 miles per hour, I mean, that's, I would say, at least like a 4.7. It's probably sub 4.7. So we're talking 4.6. At that size, that's incredible. So he had 18 tackles last season with 4 sacks, 9 hits, 15 pressures. He had the second highest pressure rate on Tennessee's team last year at 21.4%. That's second to only James Pierce, who we all know will for sure be a first-round draft pick. Now let's take a look at Omar Norman Lott's draft stock. And what we're seeing is he's projected to be a second-round pick. But if we kind of scroll down, you're going to see a lot of these are first round grades. Okay. Actually, all of them, like they are first round grades. They're all top 32. So he's a player at that three technique that obviously a lot of scouts have already taken notice of. All right, so let's take a look at Omar Normalat's practice clips, starting off with the one-on-ones. Understand he's playing at tackle, so he's not, a true pass rusher, but he shows a lot of burst, a whole lot of pop right here. He's showing some strength. So you're seeing everything that you want, I think, from a coaching perspective with any of these NFL teams. They're going to absolutely fall in love with Omar Normalat. We kind of already saw that. Those numbers, I believe, came out before the Senior Bowl clips and, Senior Bowl practice and all that. But this is a player that I can almost guarantee you is going to turn a whole bunch of heads at the combine as well. Right here, we're seeing him working on a stunt. This is where he's going to make his bread and butter at because he is so fast, so twitchy, especially for his size. The size, the speed, the strength combination is crazy. And there you're seeing him beating people off of the snap. This is ridiculous. To be able to disrupt plays before they can even get started on this level, okay, going up against this level of competition, that's insane. So I love everything that I'm seeing from him. We're seeing a pretty high motor right here. Actually, watching from the other angle, you can see that he probably could have made this tackle in the backfield. Understand that in these practice reps, a lot of this stuff is just about, hey, we're going to kind of get through our gaps and all that. We're not going to do too much to try to hurt anybody. You want to try to stay up. This is just thud. So with all that being understood, you're seeing him winning very consistently. And even when he's getting blocked, he's really just maintaining his gap. He can disengage pretty much whenever he wants to, whether it's a single team, double team. He's showing all these things on film. So he's a guy that, whenever he was transferring in from Arizona State, watched this film. I said, well, you can see everything there. You can see the skill set, but where's the motor at? This is not one of those same situations. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He's being a good practice player, right? He's kind of, going as hard as he needs to, but he's not doing too much. That's a good look, I think, for him. He knows how to practice like a pro. So he might have a couple of off the field issues, y'all, but I think that some teams are actually going to like that. Some teams want those types of dogs. He's one of those people. He can win whenever he wants to, as long as you can keep him motivated. He's a guy that I think should be a first round player. Okay. He is a first round caliber three technique all day long. Now he might fall later than that, but that just means that whoever picks him up is getting an absolute and total steal. So I would say from top to bottom, Omar Normalat probably did help himself out some with what he did out there at the Senior Bowl. He, was one of the more impressive players from Tennessee's team that's eligible for the draft this season. And, I would not be surprised if he does actually end up going in the first round. All right, y'all, that's going to be it for this video. Hope that you did enjoy it. If you are a fan of one of the players that your team just drafted that we watched today, I can tell you right here, right now, you're getting a very good one. So congratulations to you. And for all the Vol fans or for anybody else, please do leave your thoughts with me down in the comment section. And as always, please do make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.